Let me hand the microphone over to James Connolly from Hess. Jim.
Well, good morning. Thank you. As Peter said, my name is Jim Connolly, and I'm the Regional Sales Director for Hess Corporation. As I was coming over here this morning, I was thinking about last year's event, because there was a lot of discussion last year about the volatility in the energy market and pricing, and where pricing had gone and where it might go. And I don't know if anybody remembers last year, but I'm sure you do actually, but in 2008, prices went up exponentially during the summer months. We saw crude oil go to roughly $147 a barrel. We saw natural gas go to almost $14 a decatherm. And then as we got to the fall, which is when we had the Energy Summit in October last year, pricing had fallen precipitously at that time. And we're talking about what a giant drop-off we'd seen. Crude oil fell from $147 down to about $89 a barrel at that time. And natural gas had followed suit from about $14 a decatherm down to a little bit over $8 a decatherm. And we were talking about what that meant for customers and how do you manage that kind of volatility. Well, think about what's happened in the year since. Crude oil went down in the spring to almost $30 a barrel. We saw gas go not that long ago to in the $2 decatherm range. So economically, this has been one of the most challenging years on record. I think every business and every institution has felt it in some way. I know we certainly have. Some businesses haven't made it, and some are still struggling to get by. But we're really happy to be here today, and I know I speak for everyone at Hess when I say that. We do a lot of events during the course of a year, but this is absolutely our favorite event because there are very few events that really focus on customer and business needs in a real way to help people manage end user costs, while at the same time focusing on things like renewable energy, sustainability, and efficiency. And within Hess, my group, which I work, Energy Marketing, we're responsible for marketing oil, natural gas, and electricity to customers and end users such as yourself. And as the market has become more volatile, and certainly as the economy has become more volatile, it's really become extremely important that we offer the right products and solutions to businesses so that they can control their energy spend in a real way and survive in the economic marketplace. And if we fail to do so, it's really at the detriment of our overall economy because businesses won't survive. Hess is truly an integrated company. We were started in the 1930s by Leon Hess as a home heating oil company. Over 70 years history in energy. But most energy producers find energy and then build a distribution network and then go out and find some customers to take that energy. So our story is a little bit different than most. We started with customers. We didn't have exploration and production until the 60s. So when you think about it, we started with the customer focus, and that is still the driving force in our business today. So getting back to the current energy marketplace, let me just talk for a minute about what some of the drivers are that we're seeing right now and some of the influences that are affecting pricing today and may affect it as we go forward in the future. When we look at it, there's basically four major influences. Those influences would be industrial demand, overall supply considerations, liquefied natural gas imports, and financial correlations. So, industrial demand makes up in this country about 30% of the overall US demand. And we started measuring industrial demand in 1967. And the current meter reads that we're seeing right now are the lowest they've been since we started making this measurement. So you start to see this picture of decreased demand driving pricing down to where it's been right now. Now, I'm primarily talking about natural gas, and the reason for that is not only is natural gas important for natural gas users, but it's also a key driver for electric pricing as well. Now, natural gas-fired electric power generation also represents about an additional 30% of US demand domestically. And so if industrial demand is down, it ties in that electric usage will also be down. So you start to see where the entire demand picture starts to become depressed. And what can change that? Well, certainly consumer spending can. But I don't think anybody really knows when consumer spending is going to rebound long-term in a real sustainable way that we can notice. And consumer spending has represented recently about 70% of our overall GDP. Now, many economists are predicting that that could retreat to historic long-term averages of maybe 60% of our GDP. And that's why the EIA, who measures and predicts pricing models for the country, is predicting that we'll see decreased demand and maybe depressed pricing for the rest of this year and all the way into next year. So what about supply? Well, certainly supply is affected when you have decreased pricing. Because when pricing gets down into the range of the $2 level, it's not really economical to bring natural gas out of the ground. And you start to see suppliers starting to shut down supply. It could have a bullish effect eventually, because eventually the lack of supply will equate to the demand, and it will affect demand, and you could see pricing starting to rise. So it's certainly something to keep our eye on relative to where pricing goes. And liquefied natural gas. I mean, this is the process of taking gas in stranded areas of the world where there is no usage, liquefying it, putting it on a ship, bringing it to another country where there is demand for it, regasifying it, and then putting it into a pipe. Well, we've looked at this for the past several years as a key way to meet the supply demands that we would have in this country. And if you go back to 2007, 2008, there were genuine concerns about would we have enough supply domestically of natural gas to meet all of our demand, including electric power generation. And at the time, we weren't getting any liquefied natural gas imports, because liquefied natural gas is truly a global marketplace where natural gas is more domestic to the country. So what was happening in 2007, 2008 were some international events. If you remember, Japan had had an earthquake, and a lot of their nuclear facilities were knocked out and couldn't operate. So to generate power, they needed to import natural gas because they don't have any in their country. So they're bidding internationally and bidding the price up. Pricing for liquefied natural gas was actually higher than natural gas prices was in the United States, and we thought they were high at the time. Simultaneously, Spain, who's primarily powered by hydroelectric plants, they're having a drought. They need to import natural gas as well. So the natural gas is going to those places because they're all bidding for it. We didn't want to pay for it. There was a concern because we weren't getting any liquefied natural gas. Some import stations in the Gulf of Mexico were actually trying to sell their facility, and one actually went bankrupt. Well, now, with the economic marketplace, and this is a global issue, so the demand is down worldwide. So now there's plenty of liquefied natural gas. So where does it go? Because there's not a demand for it. Well, it's coming to the United States in large part, and that's because we have more storage capability. We have about 2.5 times more storage for liquefied natural gas than, as an example, Europe does. So it's coming here. But remember, I just talked about demand and how demand is down. So now we're bringing in more supply with a lack of demand. And now you can really start to see how gas got down into the $2 range and is now trading in the $4 range. So the financial correlation picture is interesting because this is a lot about this conversation that everyone's having in the news media and politically about speculators. When you look back maybe a year ago, there was a lot of outages in the Gulf of Mexico due to hurricanes such as Gustav and Ike. And that caused speculation in the marketplace that the commodities should be used as an asset class for investment. So what we started to see was that prices started to rise last year. Remember I said oil, 147, natural gas, $14. At the same time that was happening, the S&P 500 is declining. So if you have a crystal ball, or if you could look backwards in time, you'd probably say that was a prediction of what was going to happen in the energy market. Natural gas right now is trading pretty closely with U.S. equities. And equities are basically a prediction on future financial performance of an institution. So this is really something that we're watching very closely, because if you start to see stabilization in equities and other financial instruments, it may indicate that demand will start to increase and therefore pricing will start to increase. So just a few things to think about relative to natural gas pricing.